There we go. Good morning, everybody. Great that you could join us. Thank you all so much for being here today. We really appreciate they all took the time to come with us and have some conversations about where we are, where we're going, where we've been, particularly for manufacturing technology companies. And we are delighted to have Ed and Ken with us here today to talk about that. So I guess while the last of you are logging on and sharpening your pencils, I'm just going to do some quick introductions to say sort of, a little bit of who we are as individuals and things. So hi there, Ken, hi Ed, hi Andrew, hi everyone, and just some quick introductions. So my name is Susanna, and I'm Chief Content Officer at IBT Online, and so I look after things that are involved in online content. That's, that can be keywords and content, written content, visual content, all kinds of things for websites and for online marketing. I'm delighted to be joined by our business development manager, Andrew Lawler. And a big thank you to Andrew for taking this initiative to start this and do this. It's really, really great that Andrew is here to help us with that. And we, as a company and as individuals, are really grateful and thankful that Ed Christopher and Ken Werner agreed to share their experiences as manufacturers, as manufacturing technology company advisors about what the companies and what their sector has been seeing in the last year and where they see the future. So Ed Christopher is VP of Global Services for AMT. He's been active with AMT and with international business in general for about 35 years now. He has a very deep understanding of also global markets. He's served on various advisory boards, and he spent about 8 years as District Export Council Vice Chair for the U.S. Department of Commerce, and currently has a role as I said, a VP Global Services for the Association of Manufacturing Technology. And with that, he really runs the international tech centers, the global business development programs, and so on. I'm sure that he is a well-known figure to many of you. And of course, the AMT, the Association for Manufacturing Technology, is I believe, the single largest unique body in the USA that represents and promotes U.S. manufacturing technology companies. So, absolutely the bird's eye view that one wants when talking about that sector. And then we're delighted and really, really fantastic and grateful that Ken Werner, VP of Business Development for Engis Corporation, is joining us as well. Ken is Executive Vice President of Angus Corporation. He has spent his career in the private sector and brings to this talk today huge knowledge and experience in sales, marketing, corporate management, operational management, all kinds of things in the U.S. and in foreign markets. He's by international markets, so Ken worked a lot in, and he's worked in many, many areas, but he was responsible for establishing all the distribution centers and the introduction of new products and sales into new and expanding markets. Those range from China, India, Brazil, Vietnam, Europe, all of the place. And Angus, obviously, Angus Corporation is an Illinois company headquartered in Wheeling, Illinois. And they manufacture diamond-based products and machine tools that allow for finishing systems for precision lapping, polishing, grinding, and so on. And they have 7 big subsidiaries, and then they have a network of distributors. And again, we're delighted that Ken brings his knowledge and his expertise to today's conversation. 2 seconds on us as a company. IBT Online. IBT actually stands for International Business and Technologies. International Business Technologies Online. And we're very proud. We've just won, I think last month, we won the President's E Award, which is in recognition of a significant contribution to the expansion of U.S. exports. Been around since 2002, and we deliver online tools. That's websites, online marketing, e-commerce sites, whatever it is, for companies looking to expand their sales and business, particularly if they want to do so internationally. So with that, those introductions are over. Quick little housekeeping as well. This is not a webinar. This is conversations. and we want you to participate as much as you can in an organized way. So please drop your comments, drop your questions into the chat box, and we'll try and integrate them into the conversation as well. This is being recorded, and we will be sending recorded versions out to people who register as well. And with that, I'm going to get started. I think we wanted to actually just put a little bit of a time frame on this and just sort of say why are we looking at all this? Why are we? How do we come about with these questions? I want to sort of start the ball rolling with I guess with the thing that's uppermost in everybody's mind is, when is this going to end? When are we going to get out of this whole thing and get back to normal? And what will that normal look like? So looking around at some of the guesstimates made by, senior people from Anthony Fauci to senior people within Facebook and Google and global tech giants like that, to the airline industries, what do they have to say about it? And they're both basically, most of them are, apologies, that's my dog working from home. Most of them have said basically spring, summer 2021. And really, let's start with that perspective. Let's turn to Ed and then Ken. We'll talk about where they see things, how manufacturing technology companies have fared in the past year. So the two questions we have really are, what have been the main concerns for manufacturing companies in 2020? And how have manufacturers mitigated some of the effects of COVID for the last year? So what have been the main concerns? Ed, starting with you, what do you think?
Okay, first, I think a little housekeeping. Ken and I come from the same space, manufacturers, and I think to reduce redundancy, I'll kind of go on the 20,000 foot general level, and then let Ken get down into the weeds firsthand what an actual manufacturer is doing. Because of course we're an association that represents manufacturing. Okay, first of all, I mean, I'd be remiss and sorry to state the obvious, but survival, has been the real concern of the economic slowdown. I mean, you've got a lot of reduced operations in plants, reduced output, which of course comes from sluggish sales with the end users, and because of that, cash reserves have dwindled. A huge concern. Some manufacturers were designated as essential, which certainly helped out, but many were not. But outside of that most basic concern, I think there really were three most prevalent ones that we've been seeing. First, of course, and everybody hears about it, is the supply chain. Supply chains choked. This pandemic clearly exposed how fragile the global supply chain is. And, that's kind of resulted in a bigger focus on reshoring, nearshoring, and localization. I think number two would be workforce development. The skills gap in manufacturing was an issue long before the pandemic. So the ability to keep staff, and let's face it, our employees are our greatest resource. Invest a lot of time in training. They bring a lot of legacy knowledge. So that became a huge concern as cash got tight as to how to keep your people. And I think the third is probably lack of face-to-face engagement with customers and the ability for on-site service. That really degraded customer relations. So, those three were probably the three big ones that we were seeing. Now, when it comes to exports, and of course that's what we're kind of talking about today, there's a fourth one which is kind of tied to the face-to-face engagement. We all know that in order to succeed in export, a strong local presence, or at least the appearance of that, is critical in establishing a global footprint. Trade shows were canceled everywhere, not just in the U.S., but globally. I one member I was speaking to a month or so ago, they were going to exhibit in 13 shows that were canceled, 13. Now, a trade show really is, when it comes to other foreign markets, is probably the #1 source for lead generation. I mean, that's how you grow your target prospects list and fill your sales funnel. From a customer engagement standpoint, that's where you're connecting with people and building the relationships. It's really a foundational part of business development in foreign countries. That's where you get a lot of your brand recognition, where you can introduce, establish, and grow your brand. And the trade shows not only good for home office and your headquarters, but that's how you support your channel partners for local sales. You know, whether you've got dealers, agents, or even your own direct sales force on the ground. And it's also how you show your leadership position. You know, the way that you present yourself at these foreign shows. So, you know, as far as building that whole foreign community, you know, that was a big critical part. Now, of course, how have they mitigated this? You know, I think it's the main focus of today. You know, a lot of members have reinforced and upgraded their online presence, you know, really upping their game. First of all, they've had the time to do that, but we'll be talking a lot more about that today. So other than that is reinventing and rethinking the supply chains. You know, you're finding alternate sources for the inputs, the raw materials, parts and components. You know, that's everything from reviewing the geographic positioning to leveraging technology to better track and control process and product flow. We're also seeing a fair increased use of manufacturing as a service organizations, which kind of augment traditional supply chains. And finally, from the restrictions on global travel and customer support for after-sales service and techno, we're seeing a dramatic increase in augmented reality to support and train for supporting technicians. You know, people say that necessity is the mother of invention. You know, it's amazing how the OEMs are getting creative, and they're finding everything from low-tech solutions like video chats on your cell phone to full-blown augmented reality systems with embedded content. And we see this being used not only to direct the technical field staff, but also to upskill the customers' in-house personnel. So it's all pretty exciting stuff. I'll leave it. I think I've used up more time than I was supposed to.
No, not at all. That was perfect. Thank you very much for that, especially for that as you said, that bird's eye view, that 20,000. And what about you, Ken? What about Engis Corporation and
yes, definitely echo many of the things that Ed has discussed. Of course, we're subject to the same concerns that everyone else is, that Ed's already mentioned, cash flow, our employee safety, having employees show up. Again, we've been very fortunate. We have worked through the pandemic and with most of our workforce in place in terms of the factory. We've had a lot of our office people work remotely, and that has its own set of challenges. But you know, just to expand on some of the points that Ed mentioned, supply chain, it's interesting where we find some of the hiccups. It's not necessarily an overseas supplier. We have with our diamond slurries, you consume a lot of packaging in bottling the slurry, and it's a domestic source for bottles that we're having an issue with. Some of it's driven by the fact that the medical industry is upping their demands for the packaging, but in this case, it's more they're somewhere in Indiana for whatever reasons their workforce just isn't showing up. So you know, that's an interesting situation. As far as our foreign export sales, again, our success has been having feet on the ground. We have 7 foreign subsidiaries. Our products generally, although we're going to talk about some exceptions later that we've learned, you know, aren't suited to B2B online business promotions. We deal with rather large and sophisticated, customized systems. People don't buy a honing machine on the internet. So it's important that we have that direct engagement and also provide the technical support. So it's very, very important for us in all markets that we have a local presence in order to support our customers wherever they are. And you know, the other part of that, again, as I already mentioned, trade shows. We do, well, just with AMT, we do at least 3 shows. We do IMTS, we do the China Machine Tool Show, which looks like that's going to happen in April, hopefully. We got our booth assignment yesterday. We do the Imtex in India. I'm still not sure if that's going to happen, but that's just a huge part of how we make our presence known. We always will bring a machine there because if you're a foreign manufacturer and you're going to be selling a machine tool, people want to see and touch that product. So shows are absolutely essential to us. Webs, quite frankly, in the past, we have not paid as much attention to our web development as we should have. For Engis Corporation, our US hosted website services basically the English speaking parts of the world, basically the old British Empire. Some of our foreign subsidiaries, like in Japan, Korea, China, they have their own localized websites in local languages. But it's interesting. We utilize HubSpot, and it's interesting to see some of the leads that have come in through HubSpot. Some of them are junk, but a number of them are quite good. So the other thing that's been particularly challenging for us, and again, it's because we're a machine tool manufacturer, doing runoffs and installations. In the case of runoffs, we have been doing virtual runoffs, doing them live. So we have metrology results, which we can document, but we'll actually have a customer online. We'll have a camera out in the shop and actually run their parts to get the approval for shipment. And that's been working. Right now we have a machine hung up on our floor for a state-owned foreign company, and they're insisting that they need to come here. Again, I understand that, but right now that's difficult to accomplish. And then much less have the same issues on the installation side. We shipped the machine to Korea, and we had to do the installation. So our service engineer sat in quarantine for 14 days. In Korea. I need to find out what he was doing during those 14 days. But those are some huge obstacles that we face as a machine tool manufacturer.
Ken, thank you. That was very interesting. It was also interesting to hear some real life examples of that. Just to share a little bit from our point of view, we obviously not only in manufacturing technology companies, but we do have a wide spectrum of companies that we speak to. And we thought over the last few months, we'd sort of gather together and think about what are their main concerns and priorities. And clearly, we found that there were 4 consistent priorities that were coming back again and again and again. And that's, I think, been mirrored by both Ed and Ken just now. Obviously looking after employees, managing costs and especially cash flow, maintaining supply chains, especially across international borders. And it was very interesting to hear you both talking about, relocating basically and maintaining existing partnerships. But from our point of view, what we do, with online tools, it's about generating sales and maintaining sales. How do we maintain our business and that sort of thing? So for us, it was very much about, building websites that are effective online business tools, having marketing strategies that engage with clients when you're not able to see them always on trade shows. So we very much echoed the priorities seen by I think and expressed by Ed and Ken. And I just wanted to give a couple of stats that I think are the latest stats that we have. I was very grateful for Hootsuite for producing these things. October 2020, so this is very much hot off the press. It's just worth looking at that as a number. So I think we're about 7.5 billion people on the planet right now. Well, 60% of the world, 60% of the population, that's 4.66 billion people, are online. And just in the last, actually in the last 8 months, it's not even the last 12 months, last 8 months, something like 300 million people went online for the first time, joined that. That's the population of the States, virtually. And when we talk about online, the average amount of time spent online is 7 hours a day. And in the last year, that has grown from that, I think this time last year, the average amount of time spent online was just under 6 hours a day. So as an average, it's moved to 7 hours a day. So 4.6 billion people are spending a quarter of their lives online. You know, half their working day, I don't know, you know, half their working day, more than half their working day online, which I think is startling. And it is still growing. It is still growing as well. Particularly social media, I think is worth looking at in terms of the growth rates. And obviously, I said, you know, the internet users are still growing. That's its numbers, but the social media uptake and the way social media is used now, even for B2B companies, is really changing and so on. So just to also confirm what Ed and Ken were saying earlier, you know, we have just seen all of our companies go, you know, from trade shows to the online and trying to replicate trade shows through videos, through augmented reality, through Zooms, all kinds of things, just trying to reach out. And it's been a very strange time overall. We've had, you know, massive uptake in technology, all the way to very sophisticated augmented technology. And at the same time, we're like zooming in and out of each other's homes. I mean, you heard my dog barking just then, for example, very embarrassing. So there you are, you're in our living room because we're in lockdown at the moment. Our offices are closed, where I am, and at the same time, we're all using technology. So there's this real juxtaposition by this. We want also to share with you a couple of other numbers that we just have, sort of the main numbers here that just in terms of air travel. So, you know, December 2019, 78 million people are traveling on US airlines in the United States, domestic and globally on US airlines, 78 million people. In July, it's 21 million people. You know, it's picking up pretty quickly actually, but it's still, you can see that second graph there, how steep that fall off was. And we work with some of our clients are aeronautic companies, and I can tell you it's been very, very, very rough. Some of them have seen up to a 90% fall in their business. Now I wanted to turn back to Ed and Ken and talk to them a bit about what are some of the online tools that manufacturing companies use during the pandemic? And you know, you mentioned videos, you mentioned augmented reality. What are some of the big online tools? And do you think that manufacturing technologies companies see longer term benefits? Ken, you said, you know, we haven't always paid enough attention to our web up to now. HubSpot's been a bit of a revelation lately, with some genuine leads. That's great. What do you think you're going to be integrating from now on? Perhaps again, if we could start with Ed on these things.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were directing that to Ken. Yeah. You know, we've touched on a lot of this with the trade shows being canceled, and you know, this is where I can actually speak from firsthand experience. You know, AMT. We own and run the IMTS show, International Manufacturing Technology Show, which occurs every 2 years in Chicago. Ken alluded to it because, of course, they exhibit in it. It's a massive show. It's one of the biggest manufacturing technology shows in the world and the biggest in North America. It was supposed to be this past September, and we were hoping it was still going to take place right up until, you know, May and June. And then, of course, the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois said that we could not hold it. You know, this is a show that brings about 125,000 visitors into Chicago, so it's a big deal for not just for us, but for Chicago. But anyway, we had certainly, like a lot of companies, as this pandemic, you know, sort of starting to see the writing on the wall. So we had pivoted early to see if we could create some sort of digital platform, because, you know, manufacturing, trade shows are some of the main lifeblood of manufacturing. I mean, we're a very trade show focused industry. So we knew that our, you know, all of our exhibitors, and they're not all AMT members, but, you know, a fraction of the exhibitors IMTS are actually our members, were clamoring to tell us, we got to go on with the show, go on with the show, go on with the show. Of course, in the end, it's not our choice. So we pivoted very quickly to create a online platform. We didn't call it a virtual show. There's too many of those out there. An online platform called the IMTS Spark. And you know, it really needed to solve a lot of issues. If you think about what a trade show does, I mean, we needed a digital platform to create sales opportunity and generate leads. Okay, that's a huge part of any show. You know, so there's webinars, podcasts, you know, online chat rooms, you know, for the various exhibitors. Demonstration of equipment was very important. So we needed to have some sort of avenue for them to demo equipment. But then there's also, you know, the networking opportunities. One of the main reasons people go to trade shows is to network, for that face-to-face networking, that, you know, that important, you know, as Ken mentioned, you know, particularly in some product lines, you can't, there's certain things that are very difficult to do virtually, but we had to try. So we had the networking opportunities. And the other big thing that you see at these events is education. You know, there's conferences that revolve around them, knowledge centers, everything else. So we had to try and kind of squeeze all that into a digital platform. And, you know, forgive me if I'm bragging, but I think we did a pretty exceptional job. And the other thing, though, is the show, of course, is a one-week show. This Spark platform went live the week after the show would have been, because we had a IMTS network broadcast week, the whole week of the show went live, and that's continuing on until June of the end of May, sorry, March of next year. So it becomes months instead of a week, which of course is also important. Now, what we're seeing is, and this folds in right into what we're talking about today, because all of those things that we put into the Spark platform and all of the exhibitors are doing it, we're seeing them start to catch on and migrate a lot of that into their own web presence. You know, to have the digital presence on the websites, to be able to do demos, for having network opportunities, for having education and knowledge centers, training, you know, et cetera. And we're seeing a tremendous increase in usage of social media. You know, manufacturers traditionally are, you know, third generation companies. Hey, this is the way my grandfather did it and my father, and, you know, I don't need that kind of stuff. And very few would use social media. We're seeing a lot more of that, you know, particularly LinkedIn, of course, because that's really good business tools, but quite honestly, also Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You know, we're seeing a lot of that. You know, the email campaigns, you know, Ken mentioned HubSpot and some of those things. You know, some of the email campaigns are getting very creative. Because let's face it, you know, the idea of any marketing is to drive buyers to you. You want customers. I mean, if you go through all the things that any company does, in the end, why are you doing all this stuff? It's to increase your sales. I mean, that's what everyone survives on. So I think that's what we've been trying to do with that platform, and we're seeing that happening very much for individual members' websites. You know, they're spending a lot more time, a lot more energy, really trying to up their game there. And one of the things that we advise, and we're seeing that in Spark, and we're really trying to encourage with the exhibitors on Spark, is to continually develop new content. Don't just set up a website and just lay it out there and let it sit dormant. You know, if you want to keep getting visitors coming back, you've got to have some new exciting stuff to show them. So, you know, if it's the demos or the videos or product demonstrations, or, you know, any marketing collateral that used to be in print, maybe now instead of having a print brochure, you've got a video moving around this machine or whatever. You want to keep changing those up to keep driving people back. So the second part of that question, do you think manufacturing technology companies see the long-term benefits? I mean, that's an easy answer. Absolutely. I mean, I'm hearing it in conversations I have all the time. They're finding that they're actually reaching a larger audience now. You know, at a show, you get a pretty good audience. You get people up, but you miss people for sure that, you know, that may have come to the show for your particular technology, but never got around to see your booth. When you have upped your online presence, whether it be through a virtual show or your own website, that's ongoing. So, you know, the time frame gets spread out, so your potential to draw more customers, and it's cost effective. You know, let's think about it. To send somebody on an overseas sales call or to participate in a show, I mean, some companies with big exhibit, they're spending millions of dollars. It's a lot more cost effective to do that virtually, to do it outside. Now, is it as effective? Maybe not, but you know, it's a great step. And there's no question that the data we're seeing coming in really, and I know Ken's going to be sharing some data with us, I believe, it reinforces that point. So, and then the other thing, of course, as you say, are they going to continue to adopt these things? I think with the use of AR is going to increase exponentially as we move forward. There's no question, you know, with demos, training, and even, you know, and a way to show the stuff that you do. So, you know, I think there's been some lessons learned that are absolutely going to continue on in the long term.
Thank you, Ed. And what about you, Ken? And what about Engis Corporation? What are the things that you've been doing online? And do you think you'll be integrating any of those?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, some of the Zoom events, etc. That's been more focused internally. You know, we have our regional sales managers, our foreign subsidiaries. We've used GoToMeetings for conducting sales meetings, as well as reviews of salespeople. That's been very, very useful. And you know, again, we're learning. We had one conference. I think we were rolling out. Well, we were rolling out a new micro welder for the mold and die industry, and quite frankly, we didn't have many participants. One of the participants was actually a competitor wanting to learn about our tool. But you know, again, probably we didn't promote that well, whatever. So we've had somewhat limited success with that. But we're learning that you know, some of the things come out of the woodwork that we didn't see where we had opportunities. And we'll be talking about this in a minute, but what we've discovered is that we do have some products in our product mix that are better sold online. You know, they tend to be low, not large sales, you know, under, many of them a couple $100. Okay, you're not going to be sending a salesman out to pick up an order for a couple $100, but they also tend to be very high margin items, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. But the other thing too is that you know, our marketing people focus in on the content of the web, and not so much necessarily, well, who is, you know, how do we get that out? And we have same issues in some of our process development labs. We develop great applications and great products. Okay, how do we get that word out? So this is where the internet websites are playing a bigger role for us. Also, as Ed mentioned, education. You know, people come to your website, aside from seeing what you have, they're looking for information that is helpful to them. So we have paid more attention to our learning resource center, where you know, technical papers that we made at conferences that people are not attending, we've put those papers and case histories there, and we're seeing you know, people are actually reading and then calling up and asking questions. So yeah, so going forward, definitely we will be paying more attention to our websites.
Ken, do you want to give us a little bit of an example about sort of, for example, your US website, or how that interacts internationally, and your domestic website traffic?
Yeah, if you want to bring up the next slide.
Yeah. Absolutely. My mouse will work. Hold on. Get there. There we go.
Okay, so this actually is not the Engis website, but rather it's the website of a small subsidiary we have up in Michigan, the Helical Lab Company. They make a specialized tool for, as the name might imply, for doing ID and OD lapping. It's typically not used in production work. It's used in a lot in repair industry, particularly aircraft, maintenance, repair, overhaul, things like landing gear, high value components that you will spend time doing the rework or repair rather than the throwaway society. It's cheaper to buy to simply put a replacement part. But at any rate, what I did is I ran the Google Analytics on their traffic from, I think this covered a 10-day period at the beginning of the month. And they have a single website. It's US hosted, and it's in English. So if you look up at the other left-hand corner, I'm not sure if people can read that. I have bad eyes, so maybe I have a hard time reading it. But it shows our traffic to their website by country. And looking at just that factor, we see what we would probably expect, that of the top 10 regions or countries that came onto the website, most came from the US, but then the top 5 were all from English, countries where English is predominant. UK, although they speak a funny type of English, we all know that. India, what we have in there, Singapore, of course, Canada as well. Thailand's kind of a, well, what's happening there is we have a distributor in Thailand that has the Helical Lab product on their local website, and these are referrals coming from the Thailand distributor. So, again, looking at, hey, looks like not bad for a little company and their a US-based website. But if you work with Google Analytics, you learn that just looking at number of clicks, there's more to the story. And in the case of Mexico, and Mexico is one of the countries that we are working with IBT with right now for developing a website for Helical in Spanish, hosted on a Mexican website, a .mx rather than a .com URL. But you look at the detail there. The country report shows that there were 15 hits on the website. But when you go and look at what did people actually do, and the way I look at it is the number of pages that they look at and how much time they spent. Well, there's really only one where they spent any meaningful time on the website. So, the remaining 14, they came across the website, they clicked on something, but immediately left. No engagement. And I'm assuming that factor in that is that it's not in Spanish, it's only in English. So I guess if we come back in 3 months and we've implemented the new website for Mexico, I would hope that we would see those statistics being very, very different. Much improved.
I should hope so, Ken. Thank you. I just wanted to maybe just do a really quick, oops, here we go. This is what I want. A really quick interjection here about part of what Ken was just talking about that. And this is this notion of a localized website and what that actually means. Localized websites are the ones that allow your local audience. So, if you're aiming for a Mexican if you want leads out of Mexico, you need to have tools that speak to your Mexican prospects. That's not just that it's in Spanish, but that it's hosted in Spain, in Mexico, that it's in the right kind of Spanish, that it's the right kind of content management system, the right keywords. There's a lot that goes into making a localized website. But that's the kind of thing that, in terms of tools, that Ken was talking about. And if I'm going to flip through the slide deck one more time to give you an example, I guess the point being, you know, why can't I just use my U.S. website to go international? That's the other way of putting it. Is, you know, if Engis Corporation or Localized has got a great U.S. website, why can't I stick some Spanish pages and Mexicans will find me? Because that's not the way it works. That's not the way search engines work. Google in the US is very different from Google in the UK, is different from Google in Mexico. And Google always, like all search engines and social media, YouTube, whatever, all of them act like search engines because they will all say, what is the searcher looking for? Not what is the person who wants to be found. What is the searcher? What's relevant for the searcher? So I have a stupid example here. You heard my dog barking earlier. It's very embarrassing. She barks in the middle of webinars.
Yeah. Keep talking.
So, Squeakless dog toys. Google.com on the left-hand side of your page. Google.co.uk on the right-hand side. Okay. Google.com gives you Chewy and Amazon.com and some interesting content from Yahoo about Chewy, which is relevant for someone sitting in the US. These are all companies that are oriented, that you can do something with, that oriented towards what you were looking for. If you are in the UK, and if you go to google.co.uk and you've got a really annoying dog and do Squeakless dog toys, you're gonna get different ones. You get barksfrombunnies.co.uk. You're even gonna get Amazon, but it's amazon.co.uk. And that's because search engines consider the searcher as the one at the center. So anything you do online always has your searcher, your lead, your prospect at the center. And that's why you have to have online tools that always puts your prospect at the center, not you reaching out, but saying, what are their issues? What are they interested in? And then I wanted us to circle back. I'm sorry, I'm sort of flipping around here, but I wanted to circle back as well, just to get a quick information from Ken. He was talking about a really great example of a product perhaps that did work on for them on the web. And this was a bit of a surprise. I don't know, Ken, if you wanted to recount that story.
Yeah, this is kind of a case of accidental social media happening. We have not done much, again, in the way of social media promotion of Engis. You know, we do kind of the usual. We have HubSpot, I think, or LinkedIn, but beyond that, we don't do a lot in terms of social media. But this is a case study. You know, if you go to your dentist now, they stick a lot of things in your mouth besides the drill, and they're using the industry's move towards an intraoral camera. They use it for, in some cases, to replace X-rays. What you see here is actually a handpiece that's part of a system that a dentist has. You know, you've heard about get a crown done in one day. Manufacturing technology has moved into the dental office. You know, this is a system where they take a scan of the tooth to be repaired. It goes into a CAD/CAM system, digitized, and then they have a mini milling machine in their office to make the porcelain crown. Well, apparently, as they stick these cameras in your mouth, even though they have a sapphire window or screen, which is the same type of window or screen that you find at your supermarket scanners, they get scratched up. And apparently when they get scratched up, there are obviously some issues. So in this particular case, the dentist can send the handpiece back to the manufacturer. And I think I understand the charges for $800. They will recondition, repair his dental handpiece. And I guess a lot of dentists probably can afford it. At least the one my kid's orthodontist, I thought could certainly the 800 bucks. But the story behind this is a local dentist came in, literally walked in, and he had his handpiece there. And he was a smart guy, so he tried using abrasives that he had in his shop that are used for polishing primarily porcelain. Didn't work very well. So he came in, asked, could someone give him a recommendation or help him out what to do? And one of our mold and die polishing guys said, yeah, come on in. And as I mentioned, that's a sapphire window that's in there. We have developed a specialized diamond compound and slurry for sapphire applications. And our guy brought him in, used the rotary handpiece with some of our diamond paste. And I don't know, I think first time around, it took him 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, it doesn't show up very well in this photo. He polished all the scratches out, and the dentist left very happy. So make a long story short, that apparently there's a dental blog out there. Don't ask me what the name of it is, but he posted something on a website or whatever, and all of a sudden we were inundated with, through HubSpot, these requests from dentists for, hey, I read the guy's name is Dr. Honey. Interesting name for a dentist. We heard about this. We'd like to buy this product. So we made actually a little kit. It's just a 5-gram tube of diamond compound, and we include with it a felt bob. Slight modification. The shank on that is a size that will fit a standard dental handpiece. So, the challenge here is we get these, requests in through HubSpot. We're not really set up to handle these type of one-off sales. So, we've accumulated enough of them, and you can see where they're coming from. Czech Republic, and they tend to come in bunches. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was somebody in Eastern Europe that posted something. Then all of a sudden, we probably got in 2 days 50 inquiries from Russia, wherever. So anyway, so what we're working on now is setting up some distributors that are in the dental supply business. They would be in a much better position to handle this. So, so I guess the lesson learned from here is, yes, we can look at some other products that we kind of sell as accessories, and I think find markets for some of these products that have potential for some reasonably significant sales.
Thank you, Ken. I guess for me also the lesson is the power of social media. That was, I guess, serendipity, but a great story. I'm conscious of time, so I also wanted to sort of write, vaccines have appeared. We're all relieved. As we start to come out of lockdown, how are your companies reacting, you think, Ed? What are they all going to do? And also, what will they do online?
Okay, well, sorry to be corny, but first and foremost, everyone's going to celebrate, like all of us, like any business. No, I think what we're going to see is there'll be some caution, as things ramp up and everything. I mean, the past year and although there's a vaccine, and it's going to take a while. Obviously, the first responders and frontline workers, will be getting the first doses and everything else. So it's going to take quite a few months, I think, before you can see the general population. But of course, business is starting to get better even now. I mean, we're going into a resurgence, but let's see what happens over the next couple of months. But I think they will be cautious. But if one thing that for me, and I'm a glass half full kind of guy, there's a silver lining to this. And I think when we come out of this, most businesses, and for sure in the manufacturing sector and manufacturing technology, I think they're going to be better companies. And the reason I say that is during all of this, we've learned, different ways to operate. And, we've learned to be leaner, faster, stronger, smarter, and more competitive because we've had to, to survive. They've had to really get creative, look at other ways of doing things, really look at internal processes, external strategies. I mean, the amount of time, very often when things are great, people are just too busy in the day-to-day business, getting the orders out the door, everything else, to really take the time to get a little bit introverted into what you're doing. Are you doing the right things and how you're doing it? This has really been a time of reflection from both a business and personal standpoint for many people. And from a standpoint, I firmly believe that a lot of these companies are going to come out of this stronger. So, if you say, will they maintain their online presence? For me, there's no question, absolutely. Everyone's going to be anxious. Of course, Ken mentioned the show in China in April, which as of now is on and all go, and AMT has a pavilion that a number of our members are exhibiting in, and people are absolutely just chomping at the bit and anxious to get back to personal engagement face to face. So that's coming. But I think concurrently, we're going to see that all the things that were learned, all these lessons, all this time spent on developing a virtual presence, the dollars saved and certain things, I mean, that's going to continue on. It's going to be more of a mesh. Everyone's not going to just completely fall back to, okay, hey, things are getting back to normal. Let's drop our online stuff that we just learned about and then developed, or forget the social media. I mean, Ken's point about what happened with those dentists, I mean, that's remarkable. Even though it's a small product, and I'm sure it's a pretty good margin, you built these little kits, that could turn into something dramatic if with the proper handling of managing the messaging and getting it out on social media. So I think all those kind of things are going to continue. So it's going to be a real sort of melding of, okay, the old normal and the new normal in every aspect of life, not just manufacturing and business. I think we're all going to experience that personally as well.
And just reflecting also from some of the things that Ken was saying and some of the things you were saying earlier, one of the things that manufacturing companies, they've not always invested a lot in their web or on their online marketing presence and so on. Do they have in-house expertise? They've been very, very innovative up till now. What should they do? what choices they?
Yeah, clearly they don't. We get a lot. To sort of back down one quick level, and I'll try and be very conscious of time as well. But my entire life has been helping manufacturers develop a global footprint. And the whole idea of like local presence. It's all about a local presence. At AMT, my department, we have tech centers that Ken's very familiar with and is utilized in a number of countries to allow a company to have that local presence. Now, that can be boots on the ground, having you've got to have your local sales channels. All of if most American companies get involved in foreign countries through channel development. With a distributor, a dealer. If you really have some good market share or reach a critical mass, you can hire, have your own direct salespeople. But a web presence is critical for that in everything we were talking about, local language, local messaging. Your marketing messaging is different in different countries. People respond to very different things in different cultures. And quite frankly, even from a manufacturing standpoint, I think a lot of other industries, your processes can be different levels of technical advancement. So, they really have to be customized. And very few, if any, quite honestly, maybe, we have some huge billion-dollar multinationals, of course, that are members of A&T, and they, of course, have their entirely own in-house marketing web development. But most small to mid-sized companies, of course, do not. So it's third party, it's folks like you, and we have recommended folks like you to our members before. It's because it's a very specialized thing. You can have an in-house marketing person who helps you with your messaging or does your HubSpot, email blasts and various things. But developing a website is a very specialized thing. So yeah, no, I think very few have their own resources to do that, but it is extremely important. It's important domestically, but when you come to foreign markets, it's I would say even more important, because without that local presence, you have to at least appear local. You may not have any people there. You may have only one distributor, but to the point of Ken's data, the thing that struck me the most about it is number 3 on that list was Thailand. And Ken, to your point, the reason it was number 3 is because a local dealer put that on their website. Now, they may not have the best website in the world. You don't have control over a local dealer's website, but the fact that it was there, that the local market could see, hey, this product is available in Thailand, and the fact that it's a local dealer gives them the idea that, hey, this would be supported because they've got local people here to deal with this. So the whole local is critical.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. I wanted to actually to also give to spend a moment talking also about STEP grants. This has been really, really important, I think, for U.S. companies. And Andrew, maybe you could chime in a little bit here. It's amazing, innovative program for the U.S. and especially for manufacturing companies.
Yeah,
Andrew?
yeah, absolutely. I'll just spend just a minute or two, because I know we have quite a few slides we want to just run through really quick in the last couple minutes. But just speaking to all the benefits of online presence and building in multiple different ways and expanding your social media, your websites, there are STEP grants that are available to you and that are funded through state governments. And so just what we have on the screen and the slide right now, we have a few examples, as I know that we're speaking to an audience right now that's all over the country. But as of right now, each STEP program does their own thing, and they do things a little bit differently. Just an example, we have Illinois that have the iStep program, and they reimburse grants up to 50%, for example. In Michigan, up to 75%. And for the lucky few in Missouri, they go up to 100% with a Step Up grant and also the GMAT grant. And just for yourselves and for the audience viewing, there are ways to discover what those grants are for your specific state. The CITO website, citoamerica.org, listed there. Their homepage is able to direct you to that state agency that's able to further help your business in the STEP grant way. Of course, our website is also listed where we have an entire map of the US, which we'll see on the next page here, and segue into some of the online global programs.
Before you do that, I'd like to add a few comments about the STEP grants, because I'm paying it forward here, and this is really the reason why I'm participating. I learned about the STEP program from IMT, I think it was 8 years ago, that at the forecasting conference, someone made a presentation about STEP grants. It sounded almost too good to be true, free money, and from the government, how can that be? But after learning about the STEP grants, we applied for a grant through the Illinois STEP program. Subsequently, I think 3 of our shows in India, doesn't pay for the whole thing, but it helped offset expenses for shows in India. I did 2 trade missions. One, they actually paid us to do the follow-up on our leads from the show in India. And last November, my last foreign trip went with the state of Illinois on a trade mission into Vietnam to find distributors. I'll just say that the grants are easy to apply for, especially if you do it one time, very easy. My understanding of the way it works is this is a flow down of federal money. The federal government gives an allocation to every state. It's earmarked specifically for growth of exports. And as Andrew already mentioned, it's a little bit different by each state as to what qualifies. And the way it works is apparently if the states don't spend the money the following year, they don't get as much money. So they want to give this money away. And what's happened, because most of the monies in the past, I think historically, have been going towards trade shows and trade missions, the travel, which is not happening. And now they need to spend the money, so they have stepped up the amount of grants that they're issuing for websites. Now, in the state of Illinois, the percentage stayed the same, but I believe Illinois raised the base amount that they will. I think before it used to be they would give you, Andrew, you know the details probably more. I think it used to be 50% up to 5,000. Now I think they'll do 50% up to 12,000 per website. So
yeah, certainly every state is different, and just to wrap this up as well, and before COVID it was up to 3,000, up to $1,500 for many states, and now as the government and as many organizations have seen the importance of online presence and increasing that grants, it's now up to 6,000, 10,000 in different states as well, or up to 12,000 as you see in Missouri. So
another tip for AMT members, the funding runs on the federal fiscal year, which starts, was it October 1 or November 1?
October 1.
So, right now we're early in a new fiscal year. I think all the states, money's available. We wanted to do something in Michigan earlier this year, but Michigan ran out in August?
It was not a good time.
Yeah, so we just submitted our reimbursement yesterday, and pretty much been assured that, we've been already pre-approved and the money's there. So
yeah,
take advantage of it early, I guess, would be my advice.
And that's a really good point. And it's a great segue into the online global programs, because as Ken has been speaking about, he is one of our clients that we've been able to assist with some of the website localization. So some of the programs that we provide, as you can see the map that we have below, and just really quick to say that there are many states that we work with and agencies that we work with. Ken being in Illinois and Michigan, we've been able to help them reach new markets in a B2B way, generate international sales, grows brand awareness, credibility, trust, some of those main objectives that he had mentioned to us, to then build these online global programs for him. And he was then able to apply for these step grants to get reimbursed, get that free money that he was talking about before as well. And so on these next 3 slides, just talk about those online global programs that we provide to our clients. The first one being options A and B is what we call them, but it's more on the website localization. It's having that local presence in each country. It's having the website localized and hosting. It's hosted in China. If you have a Chinese website, it's got a .cn domain name for a Chinese website. It's in the traditional Chinese language for the majority of that country to understand, and it's tailored with that culture as well. And this is what we see as the best practice to get found, be understood, and be easy to do business with in those local markets and by those search engines. Now, the next program that we have to offer is more on the online marketing side. So this is international online marketing. We have a few examples of some of the things we've done, for example, and UAE for one of our clients. And we ultimately see this as the most cost-effective way to continue to be found. Continue to grow your engagement, grow the traffic on your websites, conversions, and ultimately the big part is return on investment. So if you're able to use that social media in a localized fashion in your target markets and drive that traffic back to your website, that's ultimately just continuing the flow and continuing the increase in international sales. And of course, at the bottom, available through step grants as well. And the last one that we have is more for the e-commerce side. So building you an e-commerce market, a shop on your own website, and also tailored to use the social media platforms, the social media marketing search engine optimization to increase those sales in your target markets as well.
Andrew, thank you very much for running through those very quickly. For anyone who wants to have more information about the STEP grants, about our online global programs, how we can build you online tools, websites, online marketing, e-commerce enabled or not, please get in touch, and we'll try and steer you in the right direction. We've slightly run out of time. I do recognize the questions that have come in, and I appreciate them. We will circle back or direct the questions to Ed and Ken directly, because I think we've rather run out of time. My apologies. But we wanted to thank particularly Ken and Ed for joining us today to talk about their experiences, share their views and their outlooks for the year ahead, and how online might have changed the way business is being done. We really appreciate that you've shared that with us. Andrew, thank you very much for organizing this and for hosting. It was great. And most of all, thank you companies for attending, for listening, for participating. And I do get your questions. We will be circling back to you, I promise. As I said, this is recorded. And thank you all very, very much. Keep on with the trading. Keep on with your business. Stay well, stay healthy, stay active. Remember, survive to thrive. And we hope to see you all online and in person, perhaps at one of these trade shows coming up soon. Thank you all very, very much for joining us. Be well, stay well, and see you all soon, we hope. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.